Thank you. Thank you so much for speaking to me, Mark. This is such a beautiful show. I
Thank you
truly
so
love
much.
it. Um,
Oh, thank you.
yes, what I love with season three is it's going to represent a lot of growth and a lot of change for the family. Can you talk about finding the balance of keeping the heart of these characters, but allowing them to grow into the next stages of their lives?
Well, that's the trick with life, isn't it? Is holding on to
Mhm.
who you are and finding out who you are. I don't really see it as, now that you mention it, as them changing. It's kind of them kind of figuring out who you are. And I always say you never stop growing, whether you're a pop character who's 80 or young Mark who's 14 this year. I mean, we're all still realizing things. And yeah, they're definitely growing with the kids physically as well as characters. They're getting so big. But young Mark is really just come to terms with who he is and accepting who he is, and doubling down on that and being comfortable in that when he was trying to cover it up for so long. Um, and young Sophia Powers, who plays Fox, I mean, she's expected to be this tough kid, this bully, but she has a real sweet, sensitive side that she's trying to slowly show, but is a bit afraid to. And so, yeah, it's letting them bloom, open up more as flowers, as people, is a great fun thing to watch.
What's really interesting is the parents. They in turn have to learn how to let go a little bit
Yeah.
and then learn how to trust their children, especially when it comes to the oldest. Can you talk about, because this is kind of your experience as well, um, finding that balance between, which especially with Mark now, he's also doing radio. So finding his own voice, literally in that sense.
Yeah, well, that'll happen. My brother is so dad was this well-known radio person, for folks who don't
Mhm.
know, in the place I grew up, and he was a news anchor there on radio. And my brother ended up becoming a DJ. He is now the morning guy and program director for that station, still on the air. And still going by the name Mike Campbell, which was a radio name. And when he took that name, it was very upsetting to my dad that he would go against the family name and stuff. But he wanted to become his own person,
Right.
and become his own name, his own thing, and not be just Mike Critch Jr. And that's so important to do. What the funny thing about that was, I always used to, I look at my brother, and he's always be, I want to be my own person. I want to be my own man. I want to be,
Mhm.
James Dean, kind of a rebel without a clue kind of a thing. But it's like, I want to be my own person at the radio station where my father worked. It's like, no, you're just becoming dad. No, I'm not my own person. So I think sometimes it's like we fight against who we are a bit too, and until we realize and we settle into that role. So yeah, it's that all happened, and it's kind of neat to be able to tell part of his story too, as cringy as it may be for himself to see his own life played out on TV, written by his younger brother, which I don't think anyone wants in life.
So what's really interesting is the show, it kind of alludes to that not being his idea because it's the whole monologue about finding your own voice and there can't be two of the same names here. So can you talk about kind of reliving the past, but also sprinkling that imagination?
Yeah, well, everything is like you have the memory, and then the big thing is like, oh, I want to write about this. It's like, because this was funny. And it's like, okay, well, beyond just being funny, what did you learn from it? What was interesting about it? Why is it a memory? Why is that couple of minutes from that day something that you're still thinking about? Like, what was so
Mhm.
special about it? And then you pair that with something else. Like for myself, is getting glasses, and that was a true story. I lied about having glasses and said my parents couldn't afford, because I was afraid, because everybody was beating me up and stuff. And so then you take that story, then you kind of pair it with, oh yeah, Mike was going through this at this point, and then he was
Mhm.
changing his name, and then figuring out who you are and what is it about you that makes you you. So you pair these things together. So, and then I always say, like, you have this memory, you kind of dig up all the ghosts from the past, and then you try and leave the moment a little softer, a little gentler, a little nicer than it maybe happened.
Right.
Like put things a little happier for TV land, and while really holding true to the lessons you learned, and the reason that they're a memory and that you want to pass on and share with other people.
For season three, what was very important for you that we also stay with, but we also change, that we see a growth of?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, when it's in this little bits here and there, and every moment is catastrophic when you're that age. You know, everything is so big and so important. So that's a
Mhm.
big thing when you're writing it, is remembering how big a deal it was back then, and how earth shattering something like a pimple could be, you know, in those times. And how everybody was going through it too at the same time, all your friends. It's not just you. You had to be there for them as well. And you know, you, like I say, you never stop growing. So for the parents, letting go of the kids a little bit, or for Pop realizing, you know, he's entering that last phase of life and things, we all go through growing pains no matter what age we are.
I'm fascinated by the parents though, because what we see as children can be completely different than reality. So when did you consult them to know what was really going on, or was it solely just important to stick to your point of view?
Well, neither one of my parents are still with us today, so
I'm
they're both
sorry.
passed on. Yeah, and so, but um, for me, like I write these things, and you want to be. It's all from Mark's perspective, really, you know. And
Mhm,
but then we have these other moments with the characters you got to fill in. So it goes from my own, partly my own experience as a father too. You know, like when I'm writing my parents, what I know about them, but also when you're playing the role. Like I have a memory that happened to me when I was a kid. Benjamin's playing me, but now I'm playing my father. So I had to really think about what my dad was going through in that time and look at that memory from his perspective as well. And then that really helps me get a truer sense of the memory, I think, as well, but also brings me closer to my father as a person, where I realize, oh, I kind of see what I see what he must have been thinking, or I understand now that I'm looking back at it years later, why that happened, or why he was doing that, and things like that, you know. And conversations I had with my dad too, like when he was still alive, but when we are both, I was an adult, you know, about some of these memories and times and things like that, and things we've gone through. So it's all, you know, it's a little, it's a, it's like a painting, you know, you add in a few more trees, you add in a little color, a little darker here, a little brighter here. And you hopefully you walk away with a true picture, not always not a exact copy of the memory, but like a painting, an impression of it.
so we're going into a new school year for Mark, the character. Um, so what I wanted to know was, what do you think are going to be the important lessons that he can take away when he starts to graduate?
Well, I think the two big things that most of the teachers in your life aren't in schools. The people who form you as a person,
Mhm.
they can give you things, but there'll always be with those special ones that inspire you. But you know, those life lessons really come from family and friends, and often foes. You know, will teach you a lot about the world, and to that the people who you go to school with aren't necessarily the ones who are going to even teach you things, in that they're the people who are the same age as you, who live geographically closest to the same school as you. They're
Mhm.
not necessarily your peers. You'll find a couple of those key people, like Fox and the character of Richie in the show, who are near and dear, and help you become you. But the important thing is, when you're becoming, make sure you're changing and doing these things for the right reasons, and to become your true self, not to change to fit in or do anything like that. It's okay. You're great the way you are. That you're going to be you. There's only one of those. So you don't have to try and worry about these other people. Just be true to who you are, and you will find your group. You'll find your true people in life when you're true to yourself. So it's all about that. I think this show is being the real you, and being proud of that.
Baby Fox is still in there, and it's
Yeah.
a. I want to know, is it still bullying that we're gonna go experience? Is it, we're gonna get a softer side?
To Baby Fox?
Yeah.
Oh, he's hard as nails. He's the toughest of all of them. He's like, there's I don't think there's any sympathy in him. He's just full aggression, you know. He's like he's but yeah, we do see him a little softer later on. But I think he's still trying to prove himself in that Fox family way, in that you had to be the toughest, like Fox herself used to be,
Right.
his older sister. And I think it takes a little bit of time. I think he's overcompensating for his size. And as he grows into himself, I think he might calm down a little bit. But he's pretty tough in that first episode. But you see a softer side of him at home later on.
What I've really taken away from this show and so far this season is everyone's wanting to be seen
Mm,
as who they really are.
yeah.
Can you kind of reflect upon that, of and whether or not I'm right, of wanting to be seen both of each as individuals as opposed to one unit?
Yeah, I think that's a we all do, don't we? I mean, and I think whether it's Fox, wanting to come out of that that chrysalis to show she's a butterfly, not a caterpillar,
Mhm.
but kind of afraid to open it, and it's all about, I think, having, whether it's family or friends, is having feeling safe enough to be your true self or to reveal who you are, because that's a scary
Mhm.
thing at that age, or any age really. And I think it's for the parents. So Mary's trying to figure out, who am I now that my older son is leaving the nest, and etc. So yeah, that they do want to be seen for who they are. And I think it's everybody else's job to make them feel comfortable enough to show that, because it's a brave thing to do. And then to double down and be that person. So, and it takes a while to figure out. There's those years too, figuring out exactly who that is, being sure about it. I think they're still kind of dipping their feet in that. I think, and then through these little adventures they have, they'll kind of forge their true selves as we carry on.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Thank you for the lovely, thoughtful questions. It was really enjoyed chatting with you.